Structure is the last prayer we are still permitted to say. I repeat that thought while the dropship vibrates around me, each tremor a bass note in the litany I once offered aloud as a chaplain. The title vanished from my personnel file 3 fiscal cycles ago, but habit survives ledger edits better than flesh. On the bulkhead opposite my jump seat, Astraplex Systems' corporate crest glows white, and beneath it, the terse mandate that governs everyone on board. No soul, no signal, no self. The null decree turns soldiers into functions the moment we cross a causality threshold. It was easier to swallow when I could still pretend a soul was something the board could neither grant nor revoke. Now I mark time another way. Frame holds, 4 beats, let the void take the 5th. The cadence drums inside my skull courtesy of a ligature node, a subcranial implant many operators consider torture in slow motion. It ticks a private metronome, enforcing personal chronology when external clocks grow dishonest. Every vibration from the ship tries to knock me off rhythm. Every pulse of the node nails me back to it. Across the narrow aisle, Sergeant Dane Mercer straps fresh mag charges to his forearm plate, movements clipped and sure. Armor plates slide with a rasp as they lock to his body's changing center of gravity. Grav-locked shell armor, recalibrating every few heartbeats, so our limbs will still answer us when space-time buckles. Dane's eyes stay on the gauge readouts, but I know he feels me observing. Marines like him call attention a weapon, and he respects any hand steady enough to aim it. "Heard you left the breviary back on the frigate, Father," he says without looking up. "I travel lighter these days," I answer. "Ritual weighs less than scripture." That earns the hint of a grin, nothing so loose as a smile. Beside him, Dustin Gannon runs fingers over 2 redundant tether reels clipped to his waist harness. One reel is standard issue. The second flags him as superstitious, though he claims it's just redundancy. Dustin operates point in 0G because no one sees threat vectors faster than a man convinced the universe is cheating. A green status rune blossoms above the hatch. 90 seconds to insertion. Dustin hums under his breath, something off-key and circular. The hum shifts pitch each time the node in my skull ticks. He probably doesn't hear the dissonance, and I choose not to mention it. On the forward display hangs RX Kratos, the black hole that makes every other gravitational well in the Ostrov null sector look quaint. Even filtered through the shuttle's dirt-side-friendly visual compensators, Kratos is not a sphere, but a suggestion. Midnight iris, surrounded by a whirl of shredded starlight dragged into relativistic filaments. The thing spins so quickly that its own space-time twists into a funnel, opening narrow corridors of semi-stable physics. Our mission lives and dies on one such corridor. A tumbling orbit called the event line, close enough that minutes of subjective time turn to months out there. 7 years ago, subjective, Threnady station disappeared from the event line without physical evidence, emergency flares, or goodbye. Last month it reappeared in precisely the same decaying orbit, pristine and humming telemetry we cannot decrypt. Somewhere in its weave of dorsal spines rests the Type 17 quantum ledger core, a cryo-sealed vault that stores information as geometry, future probabilities spun into spatial knots. The core is worth more than most moons, provided we retrieve it before the station's orbit degrades or the data corrupts our suits, whichever claims us first. A chime, too slow by half a beat, signals the null protocol recovery drone returning to its rack overhead. Its casing is scored, as though it flew through salt rain, yet the outside cameras swear it traveled a vacuum path. It deposits a spool of dirty optical fiber in Dustin's lap like a loyal animal bringing home a broken leash. Path's clear, mostly. Dustin's voice quivers but does not break. Couple of corridors misaligned by a centimeter or two. Might feel like walking uphill sideways. Dane snorts. Sideways uphill is my specialty. Our civilian, Drake Rowell, the ledger interpreter, floats from the cockpit, boots mag-locking to the deck. His neural stabilizer collar blinks soft amber. The collar dampens possibility bleed, a psychotic fever that visits people who handle Type 17 outputs too long. Drake's eyes are already red at the edges, as though he spent the flight reading futures only he can see. "Astroplex pushed the mission timer again," he announces, voice distant, like a professor lecturing to forgetful students. "Orbital decay models shrank our exfil margin to 2 hours, 38 minutes. After that, we may still escape, just not to the same decade we left." I feel the squad tense. The null decree permits emotion, but only as noise. You learn to convert fear into tactical parameters. Dane's only visible response is tightening a strap until armored knuckles blanch. The ship's AI, corporate voice smoothed to comforting blandness, replays the mission briefing for the third time. Each iteration glitches an additional syllable, a reminder that even outside the station, Threnady's returning signal interferes with high-band comms. I note the pattern aloud, recording it in my suit log. Identifying degradation early can save a psyche audit later. My heads-up display blossoms with final gear checks. Phase snare cutter, power at 93%. Drown halo signal suppression field primed. Makes us invisible to data watchers, or so the manual claims. The Cortex bleed beacons in every spine column read dormant, waiting for the operator to choose martyrdom. Sometimes the mere existence of an escape hatch is what keeps you from using it. I tap the hull beside the hatch twice. Old habit, older than the decree. The dropship shudders, inertial dampers cough. Arachnoid legs clamp us against Threnady's docking collar. Micro sparks halo the porthole and die sideways, obeying some local gravitational whim. Then something impossible happens. The docking hatch on Threnady irises open before the ship extends its umbilical. "Sensor lag," Dustin breathes. "Negative," replies the AI. Station hatch cycle preceded handshake by 1.4 seconds. Dane thumbs his rifle safety off. "They were waiting." "Not they," I nearly say. The station itself, or the ledger dreaming behind its walls, but semantics waste oxygen. The umbilical seals with a dull clunk that echoes unevenly, first the sound of metal, then the memory of it. My ligature node spikes corrective fire through my cerebellum. I double the exertion of prayer. Frame holds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Void. "Breach order," Dane prompts, because routine is the spear we hold against the dark. We cycle the inner hatch. Atmospheric readouts indicate breathable mix, untouched. Inside, the docking bay looks cleaner than the day it was launched from shipyards. Floors polished, equipment stowed, emergency lanterns unburned. No scorch marks, no biological decay. Time slept here, or was denied entry. One detail breaks the illusion. Droplets of hydraulic fluid float through mid-air, suspended like amber beads. They do not fall or drift. They hang pathless. Dustin's gauntlet passes within centimeters but stir nothing. He murmurs a curse shaped like a prayer wheel that hates us. "Record anomaly," Drake says, already sketching the fluid globes with his stylus onto a palm slate. Stat time lag 0.8 seconds against local gravity expectations. "Less philosophy, more perimeter," Dane barks, motioning Dustin ahead. We push forward in tactical wedge, mag boots snicking to the deck. The corridor beyond looks normal until you stare. Floor panels meet walls at angles just off enough to itch the eye, as if the station forgot the metric of right angles and substituted near misses. I reach the first junction and stop cold. A man sits on a cargo crate 10 meters down, suit unsealed, gloveless hands resting on his knees. He's not decayed. He's not breathing either. His eyes remain open and wet, perfectly reflective. On his collar peg hangs a data tag. Facility Technician First Grade, Kelven Balar. Time, 14:27 hours. The timestamp scrolling across Dustin's visor reads 14:23. 4 minutes in our future, Drake whispers. That shouldn't be possible. Dane moves to snap a containment hood over the body. He never reaches. Between one step and the next, the man, and the crate beneath him, crackles into static grain, collapses to frost onto the deck. and evaporates. No sound, just vacuum hush. Dustin backpedals until his tether catches. That's bad sign protocol right there. We don't even have a protocol for nothing happening. Focus, Dane orders, voice lower than before. Recorder on. Every anomaly gets logged. I advance to where the body vanished. The frost has not melted. Cold radiates upward, though ambient air remains warm. I picture lines of code inside some distant Astroplex server, updating casualty statistics in real time, adjusting profit projections based on our survival odds. Maybe the ledger itself is recalculating now, selecting the futures in which we succeed or fail. Structure is the last prayer. I kneel, press 2 fingers to the frost, feel it hiss against armored knuckle. Then I stand and raise my voice, steady and firm, words meant as both blessing and command. We are Null Team Sigma, recoverers of lost pattern. We move with sequence. We breathe in order. Frame holds. The others repeat frame holds, partly to humor me, partly because rhythm feels safer than noise. My node ticks in time with 4 answering heartbeats. Downline shipboard AI requests confirmation. Station perimeter secure, proceed to objectives? Dane starts to answer, but a glitch overlays his voice, response arriving a half-second before lips move. His helmet mic squeals feedback. He slams it off. I reply instead. Sigma advancing, first anomaly logged. Time signature unstable. Mission timer continues. We step deeper into Threnady Station, into corridors that remember tomorrow more clearly than they remember the present. Behind us, in the docking bay, the floating droplets finally fall. All at once, as though gravity remembered its duty late and tried to catch up. I do not look back. A map is a promise carved into ignorance, and promises crack before steel. I remind myself of that truth while Dustin Gannon walks point, tagging the passage with breadcrumb beacons, thumb-sized nodules that adhere to metal and emit low-power gravitonic chirps every 3 seconds. In normal space, the beacons paint a clean return path. In zones where physics fray, they double as early warnings. When a beacon stops answering, the corridor it marks has decided to forget itself. We set 1 every 10 meters. The first 3 respond in sequence. The 4th lands with a click, flashes green, and vanishes from my visor overlay as though erased mid-pulse. Beacon Delta just went dark, Dustin mutters. Either we hiccuped or it did. His nervous humor is tactical. If he jokes about anomaly, he owns it. Behind him, Sergeant Dane Mercer kneels, scanning for hostile mass with a wrist-mounted inertial lock bracer, a custom amplifier that lets him read microgravity ripples, then clamp them still. The bracer whines, confused. My suit microphones catch a harmonic half a key below the beacon chirps, beating against my ligature node's private metronome. The clash makes a mild ache behind my teeth, the first symptom of slipdrift, early-stage temporal desynchronization. Drake Rowell strolls at the rear, sketching corridor angles into his palm slate. Hallway curvature is off by 0.9 of a degree, he observes. Insufficient to worry an engineer, sufficient to worry causality. Dane flicks Beacon Delta's last coordinates to the team feed. Dustin, drop another. If it ghosts 2, we reroute. Dustin obeys, hefting the 5th beacon with a muttered, "For the record, future me owes current me hazard pay." The device sticks, blinks once, and holds. For now. The corridor ahead looks ordinary. Brushed steel panels, ceiling conduits tethered with carbon buckles, floor grooves for mag boots. Only when I stare long do I see the floor in geometry. The grooves taper, as if perspective itself has been reshaped. Threnady Station was built in modules that expanded like nested spines, main habitat, observatory, data conduit. But the reappearance has kinked those spines. Our current vector should lead toward the conduit hub, where the Type 17 quantum ledger core resides. Should, of course, means little inside a space that remembers future geometry better than present geometry. My node misses a tick. Speech aches to form out of order. The start of a thought leaps ahead of its verb. I exhale through clenched teeth, summon the anchoring litany. Frame holds. 1, 2, 3, 4, void. The next tick sinks. I feel the idea realign behind my eyes like bones reset. Ahead, Dustin freezes. Hold! He raises a fist the way drill sergeants taught him before drills learned to cheat time. Something whispers down the side passage to his right. Bare metal scraping, then a soft, delayed sigh, as if air remembered a sound late. Dane strides up, rifle ready. Visual? Negative, audio only. We fan out, muzzles tracking overlapping arcs. The side passage is cramped, utility panels half loosened for maintenance work that never finished. One panel hangs ajar, exposing cable guts. The recess beyond gapes like a throat. Beside me, Private Mason Beck, a Marine from our security detail, mutters a curse and squeezes through the panel before anyone can object. He is quick, proud of being first through every door. His grav-locked armor squeals as it relocks to new vectors. Beck, report, Dane orders. Static. I start a 4 count. On 2, a second Beck, identical down to suit scratches, steps from the recess, eyes wide behind his visor. He faces us, but looks slightly left of where we stand. Do not open the... he cries, voice truncated by suit comms. 11 seconds later, my HUD clock notes the exact delay. The original panel creaks. Beck's form pixelates, folds inward like a video file closing itself, and swirls into particulate frost. Where he stood, only drifting motes remain, silver dust that refuses gravity. Dustin's breathing spikes in the squad channel. He forces a joke that dies half-formed. Dane's jaw flexes, but his voice stays granite. First casualty, waveform compression. Tag timestamp. I oblige, voice steady by decision. Private Mason Beck, orientation minus 11 seconds. Presumed converted to waveform residue. Mass state unresolved. Waveform residue is Astroplex jargon for matter sampled by non-causal phenomena. It isn't death, they claim, merely miscataloguing. Families read the euphemism on condolence printouts while an accountant files the loss as equipment depreciation. Drake edges closer to the dust cloud, palm slate capturing spectral scatter. Ledger echo, he whispers awed. It's running predictions in real time, deciding which version of us proceeds. That version was declined, Dane snaps. All eyes up. We press on. With each step, my internal narrative threatens to fray. Clauses arrive before contexts. Memories flex. The station's hostility is seductive. If I let structure slip even briefly, thought will slide into noise. The 6th beacon reports from behind us. Either the corridor folded or we walked in a loop shaped like a straight line. Dustin shakes his helmet. I swear we're moving forward. Forward is optional here, I say. Sequence is not. Sequence. Dane orders halt, draws circles in the air for a brief map sync. He overlays Threnady's official schematics against Dustin's live LiDAR. The layers mismatch like lungs excised from 2 different species. Our intended junction is now 60 meters starboard, but starboard by which frame? Arguments stack until Drake clears his throat. External frames deceive, he says. Landmarks internal to the station remain truer. Data conduit spine houses redundant neutrino shielding. Surfaces will show ceramic scoring. We look for that. His reasoning is sound, so Dane gives the nod. We reroute, following the ceramic scorch trails that snake along conduit casings, all the while planting beacons that sometimes chirp, sometimes fall mute like swallowed promises. My ligature node surges, a symptom of mounting observation debt, the theoretical cost of perceiving unstable quantum environments. The more we look, the more the station must balance the ledger by altering what is looked at. I taste copper at the back of my throat, an old psychosomatic tell. I speak a line of liturgy aloud. Observation engenders consequence. We walk, we pay. It helps. Dustin copies the cadence under his breath, perhaps unaware. A bend opens into a wide observation deck I do not remember on any blueprint. Star-specked void yawns beyond the glass, the black hole's ragged halo shimmering like a candle in wind. Centered in the viewport stands a man in grease-smudged coveralls, hands clasped behind him. He does not turn. Every 61 seconds he speaks. Trajectory confirmed. Breach angle stable. We are within margin. Then he resets, shoulders rolling back to original posture, breath reused. The repeater, an anomaly rumored in decrypted logs, was a maintenance tech, long logged as unrecoverable. Dane raises his rifle. Identify. Looped asset, I answer. Non-responsive. Threat probability low. Drake's slate chimes. Thermal reading suggests 19 degrees Celsius. Body heat but no metabolic fluctuation. Dustin eyes the door behind the repeater. That exit's not on any map. He fingers one of his copper slivers, nervous ritual he won't name. Observation debt nags. The longer we watch the tech, the more something unseen may observe us. I step forward, tap the deck twice, asserting presence. The repeater's next cycle begins early, words overlapping themselves like a jammed data tape. That overlap steals half a second from ambient time. My HUD clock compensates by pausing before the next tick. Enough, Dane says, pulling me back. We move. We skirt the viewport, boots planting on flooring that hums discordant. I feel the repeater's stare. 2 more junctions. At the last, a blast door bars passage. A composite alloy warped into a subtle inward bow. Dustin primes the phase snare cutting system, nicknamed Fiddlewire, for the way its collapsible coils vibrate matter out of solidity. The device sings in sub-audible tremors. The door's surface blurs, its molecules persuaded to forget cohesion. Dustin steps back 1.2 meters, because manuals warn that echo rebound can concuss a man's inner ear with his own footsteps. Metal softens, then recrystallizes, leaving a circular gap rimed with frost. As we pass through, cold fingers brush my visor. Filamentary strands, the first physical sign of the unseen entity we have only theorized. They refract light incorrectly, breaking my sightline into staggered frames. I refuse to stop. Motion inaugurated must complete. Beyond the breach, a corridor descends toward the data conduit spine, confirmed by ceramic scorches and the hum of neutrino pumps. Victory should taste sharp. Instead, dread swells. My suit clock insists 1507 local, but Dustin's HUD reads 1512 and Dane's 1459. Extraction protocol hinges on synchronized timers set aboard the dropship. If we cannot agree on now, we cannot agree on when the shuttle returns, or whether it ever did. I broadcast a calm override through squad comms. Internal time mismatch recorded, node metronomes diverging, initiate breath match synchronization, inhale 3, exhale 4. Voices comply, chests rise and fall. Microphone input aligns our lungs even when clocks do not. Drake whispers, Ledger's choosing us, passing variations. I almost answer, but the words arrive late, 2 heartbeats behind intent. Speech unsaid becomes thought unowned. I let silence stand because silence has sequence, and sequence is the only ground left. The corridor ahead bends out of sight, a crooked grin of lightless bulkheads. Somewhere within that darkness, the ledger writes futures we have not lived, and maybe never will, unless it decides otherwise. Behind us, a lone breadcrumb beacon chirps out of rhythm, as if correcting a song we do not yet know. Every cathedral demands silence before it demands faith. Threnady's core makes the same demand, but it defines silence as anything your heartbeat cannot yet remember. We stand at the mouth of the data conduit spine, the narrow vertebra that houses the Type 17 quantum ledger core, a vault-sized device engineered to store time as frozen geometry instead of linear record. In the years since Threnady vanished, the core has continued writing potential futures, and those futures have swollen its internal framework past any blueprint. The only physical entrance is a pressure bulkhead that looks ordinary until you notice the doorframe is perfectly oval, no straight angles for a mind to anchor on. Protocol dictates 21 silent steps from threshold to vault antechamber. The ritual predates my service. Designers believed fixed movement patterns discouraged the ledger from anticipating intrusions. Even stripped of chaplain rank, I feel the liturgy rise in my chest. I motion the others, palms down, 2 fingers extended, a gesture meaning quiet and count. 1. Magboot disengages with a hush, then reattaches to the deck's frost-rimmed ceramic. 2. The corridor sighs, exhaling when we inhale. Air temperature drops 3 degrees Celsius. Readouts claim no change. 3. My ligature node ticks against the roof of my thoughts, enforcing chronology like a metronome wielded by a stern choirmaster. 4, 5, 14. Dustin Gannon's breath spikes on local comm. He forces each exhale through pursed lips, unwilling to break the wordless span. 20. The final pace brings Sergeant Dane Mercer to the biometric scanner recessed beside the vault door. Metal petals unfurl, revealing twin sockets the exact shape of hands. Without a word, he plants his palms, left, then right, submitting to identity verification. 21. The pressure bulkhead ripples, not unlike skin stretched over bone. Locks thud open. A translucent mist vents across us. Decontamination sequence. Theta 9. Aerosolized paraferrosalts and microscopic gyroscope drones that scrub errant neutrino flux from armor seams. If a single mote of active ledger geometry clings to us outside this chamber, data contamination could ripple into normal space, rewriting cause and effect like sloppy inks on wet paper. The fog recedes, and the room beyond steals whatever composure we have left. Imagine a sphere nested inside a cube, both turning in opposite directions. Now ask the walls to remember that shape even when your eyes do not. The chamber's interior is carved from a carbon alloy known as dark frame ceramic, a material tuned to absorb stray probability waves. Black tiles form shallow terraces toward the center, where the Type 17 core rises on a column of cryonic conduits. In concept art, the core resembles a simplified gyroscope, 3 toroidal rings, past, present, future, counter-rotating to catalogue temporal telemetry. Reality bears faint resemblance. The rings remain, but new growths spider from them. Crystalline ribs of pale matter that branch, rejoin, and bloom into translucent petals taller than men. Each petal flares in slow gradations of light, an aurora imprisoned in glass. Drake Ral approaches, awe slurring his voice. "The ledger is growing its own predictions," he murmurs. "Every branch a corridor we haven't walked. It's choosing structures that survived." "Can you shut it down?" Dane asks, keeping rifle trained on the largest bloom. Drake shakes his head. "No simple kill switch. This isn't code now, it's organ." I circle the dais, cataloguing sensations for my report, and for my sanity. The chamber breathes with us, air pressure dipping when our lungs expand, rising when we exhale. Footsteps echo backward. The sound of impact bounces off the far wall before heel meets tile. My ligature corrects neural lag, but no implant can fix the skin-deep terror of being answered before one speaks. Filament strands extrude from coolant conduits overhead, semi-crystalline cords thinner than wire but dense as lead. They weave into the open space, questing like silver vines that reflect no light source present. I recognize the hazard too late. The strands dart downward, wrapping Dane's rifle muzzle. A normal material would bend, these compressed, dragging metal molecules tighter, shrinking the gun barrel by centimeters in a heartbeat. Servo alarms shriek. Dane fires a reflex burst, but the muzzle implodes inward. Rounds never leave the chamber. He lurches, armor locking to prevent torque from snapping his wrist. "Cutting!" Dustin yells, producing the phase snare cutter. He hesitates. No clear target. One wrong resonance could liquefy Dane's arm. I move instead. Ritual sometimes outruns machinery. "Frame holds!" I intone, stepping between Dane and the core. My gauntleted fingertips trace a sigil in the air. Circle, line, half-line. A meaningless glyph the chapel manuals used to call stillness glyph. Meaningless except it organizes attention, forcing both observer and observed into sync. My breath counts match the pulse of the ledger's petals. 4 beats swell, 1 beat release. The filaments quiver, uncertain which timeline this gesture belongs to. In that pause, Dustin finds his angle and bites a snare wave across the strands. They shear with a sound like cracking ice and recoil into vents, leaving Dane free and furious. He tears the ruined rifle from its mag clamps, tossing it aside. Next time the ritual gets teeth, he grunts, rubbing at dented vambrace. Teeth enough, I reply, glad the helmet hides the tremor in my jaw. Drake approaches a low stalk of crystal, stylus poised. Listen, he whispers. In the chamber's near silence, voices whisper back. Our voices, half overlapping, distorted by flanging delay. They repeat fragments we have not yet spoken. Dustin's voice comes first, tight with panic. Timer's a lie. Extraction drifted. Then Dane, steady and cold, as if giving an order he hasn't yet received. We'll plant the charge. And then my own voice, quieter, measured, words I haven't spoken but feel coiled in the back of my throat. Sequence offers a third path. The chamber falls silent again, as if waiting for us to catch up. Drake doesn't move. It's reading ahead, he murmurs. Each phrase arrives seconds before we utter the real words. The ledger is reading us, or perhaps writing us, and testing which rendition provides the outcome it prefers. Observation debt comes due. Every syllable we speak buys another iteration in crystal. Dane squares his shoulders. Enough. He gestures to the pack slung at Dustin's hip, a matte black cylinder sealed with dual biometrics. Veil C2 phase distorter, a weapon of last sanction, capable of erasing localized space-time by severing molecular cohesion. Corporate doctrine names it asset denial. Soldiers call it the curtain. Plant it, he orders. We slag the core and bury the ghosts. Dustin hesitates, eyes flitting to the petals glimmering like stained glass. Destroying this place might rescue reality, but it will also erase the only record of what Threnady became. Drake's voice turns sharp. If the ledger dies ignorant, the echoes propagate unchecked. Data collapse could ripple back along every branch it spawned. You don't know that, Dane retorts. I know selection bias, Drake fires back. Destroying the question won't silence the answer. Arguments stack. Logic, fear, corporate mandate. I listen until the chamber's breathing syncs with the rising cadence of their voices. Then I cut in. Because chaplain or not, ritual must arbitrate. We choose nothing in anger, I say. Sequence first. We catalogue what the ledger wants, then decide. Dane's jaw works. Finally, he nods once. His respect is a door that only opens under discipline. 5 minutes observation, he grants. Then we torch if risk escalates. Dustin exhales relief, hugging the veil charge close as though it might bite. He activates a drone, a silver sphere the size of a fist, mirrored surface jittering with embedded sensor pits. It drifts toward the core, chirping time bounce pings that map local temporal shear. The petals brighten in response, as if welcoming a familiar dialect. Drake stands beneath the largest bloom, eyes tracking invisible geometry. He speaks in near-reverent tones, narrating what he interprets. Each petal is a probability manifold. The brightest edges trace futures where we live. The dimmer spurs model our absence. The ledger is weighting scenarios, pruning branches where outcome efficiency drops. Efficiency, a corporate word for profit maintained, disasters avoided, assets recovered. The ledger is no mere recorder. It is algorithmic theology, rewarding futures useful to its unseen shareholders. I key my suit recorder for verbal note. Type 17 exhibiting active curation. Implications, sentient or at least self-optimizing archival motive. The petals cycle color, shifting from cold blue through mournful amber to visceral red. Comms crackle. The dropship AI pipes an urgent update. Warning, extraction corridor drift detected. Synchronization error exceeds safe threshold. Crew coordinates unresolvable. Dustin's earlier echo solidifies into fact. Timer's a lie. Extraction drifted. Our shuttle can no longer locate us because our now no longer maps to any stable orbit around RX Kratos. Dane pivots, fury subdued but live. That's on the ledger. We finish the job, or we'll never get out. Drake steps between him and the bloom. You kill it. You strand us anyway. Severance might be possible. Decouple station mass from real space. The core continues. We step off. Step off where? Dustin hisses. Into a math problem. The veil cylinder glints, waiting for consensus or panic. The ledger's petals brighten, feasting on the indecision, the potential energy of choices not yet made. My ligature node syncopates a new rhythm. 2 beats, pause, 2 beats, pause. Entropy creeping inside the implant's certainty. Breath anchors cannot fail now. Sequence, I remind them. Sequence decides. Silence drapes the chamber, thick as null cloth. Even the vault seems to hold its artificial breath, waiting for the pattern we will next declare. Somewhere above, metal groans like a cello bow drawn across frozen steel. The chamber lights dim, and in that artificial twilight the ledger's blooms illuminate our faces with reflected possibilities. Some kinder than reality, most far worse. I weigh the liturgy I abandoned when Astroplex struck Chaplin from my record. I consider the ledger's hunger for futures, the value of a path where we survive with our humanity intact. If such a branch exists, the machine might nurture it, if we give it ritual enough to recognize. 5 minutes, Dane repeats, voice soft now, as though speaking in the core's own church. Then we choose. The station's heart keeps breathing, inhaling our dread, exhaling its own. I close my eyes and count the beat my implant still remembers, while the ledger recounts futures I have not yet lived. Futures I must guide or bury before the last breath escapes this failing frame. We leave the vault on Mercer's command, veil charge still cradled in Ganon's arms like an unexploded catechism. Our 5-minute reprieve is gone. Alarms across the local net now stamp every packet unreliable time source. When a clock loses confidence in itself, it defaults to 0. So has the station. So perhaps have we. The junction just outside the core should split toward maintenance galleries, but instead opens onto a sleek analytics lab. 4 exam tables, diodes still aglow, air smelling of ozone and aldehyde. I recognize nothing from schematics. Dustin whistles low. We overshot by 2 decks, he says, though elevation data insists we traveled laterally. The only exit lies opposite the one we entered. We cross and step through, into the same lab again. Same tables, same burnt odor perfume, a perfect loop. Recursive door syndrome, an anomaly noted in Threnady's old blacksite logs. Doors that lead perpetually to themselves, reality stuttering like corrupted film stock. Dane plants a glove on my cuirass. Map says we should be facing bulkhead axle 6 Echo, but field shows this. Clinic. Not clinic, Drake Rall mutters, tracing air with stylus. It's a node for framing probable medical outcomes. Simulation lab for injuries that never occurred. The ledger grows rooms to house data it values. He sounds feverish. Luminous equations bloom across his visor because he has smeared it with grease stick, overlaying glyphs only he understands. Sweat beads beneath his stabilizer collar. His fixation on predictive geometry is peeling him like fruit. Loop won't break itself, Dustin says. 4th time's rumored lethal. I force my voice calm. Eyes on me. Breath match. Inhale 3. Exhale 4. My cadence fills helmet speakers, makes a metronome louder than doubt. We re-enter the doorway. The lab returns, but the lighting flickers. Progress. 2nd pass, shadows tilt 5 degrees. 3rd pass, air smells of brine rather than ozone. 4th pass, a corpse lies on table 3. It is Dustin Ganon. Armor scored, visor shattered inward. His chest plate bears a copper sliver, identical to the charms he fingers before every breach. Real Dustin stares, throat clicking. I place a hand on his shoulder, steadying him, steadying myself. Choose the version that serves sequence, I instruct. Face forward, never back. He nods once. Together we cross again. The door's threshold feels viscous, as if memory congeals there. We emerge into a new corridor. Narrow, badly lit, promising at least motion beyond repetition. I release the breath I could not remember holding. The corpse stays behind, entombed in an aborted timeline no longer preferred. 5 minutes of silent advance brings physiological revolt. Dustin scratches at his neck seal. Flakes of skin drift, peel away without blood. Entropic shedding, a documented response to prolonged residence in causally loosened zones. Cells forget sequence, slough the details of being alive. Simultaneously, Dane's inertial bracer sputters, servo whine pitching up a full octave as the gravitonic anchor inside it tries to lock onto 2 different gravity vectors. His right arm jolts, torque nearly wrenches shoulder from socket. He braces against the wall, breathing hard. Suit medical reads all green, he growls, but my bones disagree. The station compresses mass, I remind him. Hold still before it chooses a shortcut through you. Drake ignores all of it, immersed in his visor scribbles. Ledger feedback rising. It mirrors our biotelemetry, seeks consensus path. He taps a crystal bloom he carries, just a splinter he pried from the core's outer rind. The shard flares red, brightening in sync with every heartbeat in the room. A metallic tick carries down the hall, steady, staccato, a tempo just ahead of our pulses. The harmonic drip, but as percussion. Predictive heartbeat, station-generated to lure or terrify. The sound insists we accelerate or be outpaced by our own biological future. It's counting the moments before we diverge irreversibly, I say aloud. Or inviting us to keep time, Drake counters, eyes wet with fervor. Ritual is selection. Give it a song and it may favor the branch where we live. His conviction chills me more than any vacuum draft, yet his point strikes true. The ledger's blooms brightened when I drew the stillness glyph. Pattern matters. We reach a broad staging deck overlooking an atrium of drifting scaffolds. Rails vanish into mist. Filament matter clings between the gantries. Thicker here, semi-opaque, weaving false reflections of us that lag just slightly behind. As we move, whispers begin to leak through squad comms, quiet, close, and not quite in sync with anything we've said. Dane's voice cuts in first, calm, but too early, like a thought spoken ahead of itself. Give me the clearance key. A second later, Dustin's voice bleeds through, thinned by fear. Can't feel my hands. Then Drake, distant and eerily calm, as though resigned to something only he understands. Severance's acceptance. And finally, my own voice. Older, slower, worn down to something elemental. Become story and survive. The entity does not barter with words. Instead, it replays the ledger's curated futures back through us. I taste rust and lilac on my tongue, a synesthetic signal of alien presence. Ahead, a vista flashes. Threnady, silent, yet lit with glimmering mesh phantoms. Translucent soldiers frozen mid-motion, forever safe within archival amber. I understand. One available branch offers preservation by converting us into memory geometry, neither dead nor alive. Interactive footnotes to possibility. Immortality stripped of volition. Dane raises the veil cylinder, thumb on dual press arming stud. We end it here. No archives, no ghosts. Drake steps into the muzzle line. Data collapse will resonate. Severing is cleaner. We jettison station mass into offset orbit. Core persists, but outside causally coupled space. That cuts our exfil, Dustin croaks, plucking skin from glove seams. We are already lost to the shuttle's clock, Drake replies, voice fraying. Better to choose the drift than be chosen. Their argument rings hollow because fear has soured logic. Decision must be ritual, or the ledger decides for us. Black-level protocol requires 2 biometric signatures to arm a veiled charge. Dane presses his gauntlet to plate 1, then looks at me. Wordless request. Rank no longer exists between us. Authority, however, belongs to whoever keeps sequence. I place my hand atop plate 2, The HUD blinks. Arming. Stand by. Dane exhales. Then I move. My free hand dives for the charge's power conduit, not to detonate, but to redirect. With practiced flicks, I reroute energy flow to the deck's umbilical coupling, the line that feeds into Threnady's auxiliary thruster grid. The veil stays dormant. The station engines receive a surge large enough to wake from hibernation. Dane roars, wordless, betrayed, yet before he can wrench the cylinder away, the umbral thrusters howl. Deep vibrations ripple underfoot, a basso tremor that belongs to planetary liftoff, not orbital drift. I open squad channel wide, force calm across the feed. Action, severance protocol. We shove the station beyond charted orbit, out of synchronization with real space. The ledger sails with its questions. We remain aboard long enough to guide thrust, then cut life support to tertiary pods and ride gravitonic escape suits home. Drake's face breaks. Relief, terror, worship mingled. Dustin just nods, frantic fingers spinning new tether calibrations in his HUD. Dane looms, fist tight on my shoulder plate. His discipline holds. He does not swing. Ritual betrayal, he mutters. Ritual salvation, I answer. Sequence chose. Structural sirens compete with the ticking rhythm of my heartbeat. The dropship AI floods comms, voice distorted to animal growl. Warning, Threnady orbital parameters no longer match registry. Docking solutions nil. External cameras show RX Kratos smearing into multiple crescents as relativity tears viewpoint. Stars squirm, lensed by gravity wells we cannot name. My ligature node panics, dumping corrective bursts. I disable auditory feed before vertigo bursts eardrums. Dustin seals a portable navbuoy to the west catwalk, a breadcrumb for whatever rescue craft might stray close to our new, orphaned orbit. His forearms are raw, skin sloughing in gauzy sheets. Still, he works, ritual over biology. Dane shoulders the veil again, but the fury is gone. What remains is purpose. If the ledger tries to drag us with it, I cut, he says. I do not dispute. Safety lies now in balanced opposition. My severance, his erasure, Dustin's mapping, Drake's interpretation. A skein of intentions the core must weave around, not through. Power arcing through reactor spines reaches critical threshold. Automatic systems search for a timestamp and find none, so they default to System 0, midnight on the first recorded day, the birth of institutional time. The whole station blinks, as if turned on for the first time. My HUD hangs on that eternal 0, then refreshes with a single line. All paths unfixed. Below it, in smaller text, another notification. Ledger negotiating future anchor. Offer crew integration. I nearly laugh. Wild, bright amusement at the gall of a machine that believes negotiations still open. I tap helmet chin plate, open general broadcast. Offer declined. We walk our own pattern. Drake draws something on his cracked visor. 2 concentric circles bridged by a single diagonal. A simplified stillness glyph. He catches my eye, nods. Ritual accepted. The thrusters fire a final volley, jolting gravity sideways. Felt floor becomes wall. We cling with mag boots. External feed renders Starfield into smears that fade beyond optical range. We have slipped below the event line, not quite into the black hole, but into a private eddy of dragged space-time where no beacon will casually wander. Lights stabilize. Filament matter retracts, sensing perhaps that preferred futures now lie elsewhere. The ledger's blooms dim to sullen embers, still alive, still writing, but parented to a trajectory no longer cross-indexed with our universe's accounting. Dane finally unclenches. Extraction's impossible. From here, yes, I answer. But we realign suits to inertial null. A micro-thruster pack can nudge us up and out over months of subjective drift. Supply caches remain in the dropship, time-dilated but edible if we intercept. Dustin moans, half laughter. A vacation in slow hell. Beats being sculpture. Drake leans against a rail, composure fracturing but mind luminous. Ledger quieted, he whispers. It is listening inward now, chasing its own tail outside causality. We gave it ritual to chew. That may be mercy. I look at Dane. He meets my eyes. The anger has settled into something older. Trust built on shared fracture. No soul, no signal, no self, he recites. The null decree. I answer with the forgotten codicil, one corporate deleted years ago. Yet sequence remembers. We stand together amid tilting shadows, 4 men tinged with frost, each shedding something vital: skin, certainty, command, belief, but holding the rhythm that binds us to the narrow definition of living. Outside, Threnady turns into ex-legal orbit, a cathedral of unchosen outcomes freed to pray to whatever gods measure lost probability. Inside, we prepare for a pilgrimage across the void, guided only by ritual, copper slivers, and the stubborn pulse of hearts determined to beat in their own present tense. The tick still beats ahead of my pulse, but it no longer terrifies. It is just another drum to count against, a metronome we will one day pass, leaving the station to dream, with its ledger, for all the futures that were never ours to claim. A promise becomes sacred the instant fulfilling it means you may not live to see its proof. That thought steadies my hand as I kneel beside the dormant Type 17 quantum ledger core one final time. Its once luminous petals now glimmer like embers caught in cooling wax, flaring only when we move too close, as though it still tastes the residue of our futures and finds them losing flavor. The thruster burn that hurled Threnady Station beyond charted orbit has also leached reserve power, lighting gutters, gravity wobbles. Yet the ledger persists, unreadable and undying, a reliquary of every path we never walked. We have hours, perhaps days, before life support buffers fail. Long enough to cut free, maybe long enough to choose how memory outlasts matter. Inventory check, Sergeant Dane Mercer murmurs, kneeling opposite me on the black ceramic dais. He lays 3 objects in a careful row. The crippled rifle whose barrel the entity crushed, a single unfired Veil C2 phase distortion round, and his etched wristband of breach timestamps, symbols of force, erasure, and ritual precision. He removes the wristband last, articulating each click of its clasp as though divesting bone. Dustin floats above us in microgravity, mag boots cycled off to relieve his blistered feet. Sheaves of dead skin drift from his knuckles. He nudges them away with gentle flicks so they will not contaminate the vault filters. From a cargo pouch he produces his necklace of copper slivers. Each plate is stamped with a crude sigil. Corridors survived, he once claimed. He palms one, hesitates, then hands the entire chain to me. They belong to the moment that got me here, he whispers, not to wherever I'm going. Drake arrives last, collar lights dim, voice a rasp. He cradles the crystal shard he sheared from the core. Once fiery, now smouldering violet. Hairline fractures crazed through its length hint at structural exhaustion, too many probabilities collapsing into one stone. He offers it to the ledger's central socket, a magnetic lock designed for diagnostic keys, and the shard seats with a tremor that passes through every deck plate. Our witness, Drake murmurs. The ledger will not forget us if we leave something it already began. We are 4 men arrayed around a machine that counts destinies as easily as lungs count air. To close the circle, I withdraw a slim white filament from my tool satchel, a tremble light, unauthorized morning beacon fashioned from low-burn wire and desiccated xenon gel. Marines wedge them into airlock seams when someone's frame collapses and there is no body to grieve. Regulations deem them superstition. Culture deems them anchor. I ignite the filament with a soot spark. The wire curls into soft amber glow, neither harsh nor steady, light that seems always moments from failing, and so reminds observers to hold fast. Protocol, even an improvised one, demands declaration. One immutable memory, I intone, spoken for the ledger and for the self. I begin, I remember Sanctus Cradle orbit at mid-dawn, gravity tide shifting so slow you could feel blood drift behind your eyes. First time I trusted silence more than speech. The ledger's petals brighten at the words trusted silence. My node registers no neural lag, memory accepted. Dustin speaks next. I remember a maintenance shaft above Coriolis D7 where oxygen read 90 seconds, but the other me, he swallows. The one who died, reckoned 0. 90 was real. Signal spike, petals shimmer turquoise, the hue of breathable air in emergency overlays. Drake's voice catches on dryness. I remember when I solved a waveform recursion puzzle at age 9 and the instructor said there is glory in precision. I believed him until today. Dane finishes. I remember dragging Captain Jex out of a folded corridor on Langdor Colony even though the schematic said he was already dead. Sometimes schematics lie. His words land heavy. The ledger flickers red, then dims, as if unsure whether heroism or insubordination serves probability better. 4 memories, set like candles. The ritual is not chaplaincy, not exactly, yet structure is served, and I feel the chamber settle, acknowledging closure of some long-running loop. A vibration, subaudible, traverses support columns. Filamentary strands boil from ceiling vents, braiding into a cyclone whose diameter shrinks with predatory deliberation. Unlike earlier extensions, these do not test or constrict. They manifest intention, to claim or compel. Drake gasps. Interpretation phase. It wants reader and record to merge. Dane shoulders the veil cylinder, slides one precision round into the breach. Then we give it phosphoric silence. I extend a palm. Aim for limbs of the bloom, not the petals. Sever, don't pulverize. The ledger must survive the cut or station stability may cascade. Dane's visor tilts. You think I missed the part where we're still aboard? A smile tugs unbidden. Faith in your aim, Sergeant. He braces, exhaling steadiness. Microgravity eliminates recoil. Nevertheless, he anchors boots, adjusts for drift, and fires. Veil rounds carry exotic matter that phase offsets molecular bonds. The projectile contacts the filament mass, blossoms into lensing halo. Reality flexes, a camera misfocusing. The cyclone fragments, shards evaporating before they hit deck. No shockwave, just absence, a bite mark in causality. Dane's gauntlet smokes, fingers splay in spasmodic arcs. Contact with phase bleed severs momentary cohesion of flesh. Tissue disperses into glimmering motes that wink out faster than blood can leak. He retracts the hand, -2 fingers, amputated by erasure. Artificial calm rings through his voice. Tithes paid. The ledger responds. Light wells through every fracture line, flooding the vault in rose gold sheen. Drake staggers as if kissed by fire. It's recoiling. Severance has priority. Station mass is destabilizing. Exactly what we need. Earlier, I rerouted veil capacitors into auxiliary thrusters. Now Dustin engages our improvised guidance routine. He plugs a battered navpad into primary flight relays, co-ops them with code he wrote. The plan, a final thrust, calculated to shift Threnady from partial orbit into a languid looping descent, forever skimming the event horizon yet never reaching spaghettification, a graveyard orbit for a machine that dreams too loudly. Numbers flicker, 0-point correction algorithms screaming unknown variables. But Dustin's instincts outpace flawed math. He slams execute. Station inertia surges sideways. Gravity flips 90 degrees. We cling to railings as up becomes bulkhead. My ligature node snaps voltage arcs to keep consciousness anchored. Sirens fail. They require temporal cohesion to sample sensors in sequence. In their place, a single deep chime reverberates like a ship bell rung at universe's edge. Dane pulls us toward Escape Cradle, an emergency stasis pod retrofitted for extravehicular return. Hull sensors insist the cradle already launched 6 minutes ago, then revise. Time argues with reality. We muscle open the hatch. Inside, 4 inertial null suits hang like silver coffins. Each kit packs micro-thruster array, month of nutrients, and a small quantum locator beacon that will ping any search grid still in our universe. Extraction denominator equals endurance times stubbornness. Acceptable. We cycle first to Drake. His stabilizer collar overloads, flashing crimson. Cracks propagate along the polymer. The device was never meant for environment beyond ledger proximity. He shakes off my concern. I will not need it where we're going. I disagree, I say half-jest, still help him secure seals. Dustin next, fingers trembling, but the copper sliver necklace now clipped to his belt as something to return to if he survives. Memory as ballast. Dane last, refuses assistance. Bloodless stumps where fingers were have cauterized by physics, not medicine. He hides the pain as ritual. Failure tallied, lesson learned. I close my own suit, feeling the tremble light's glow through visor tint. Its gentle flicker anchors heartbeat to something slower than panic, faster than despair. Just before jettison, Dane turns to me. You said sequence chose. You sure this is the branch where we live? I'm sure this is the branch we earned. The stasis pod door irises shut. Atmospheric hiss, pressure equalizes, external hatch yawns on nothing. Beyond, Threnady's hull gleams with stress fractures. Crystal vines curl along struts, still unfurling but directionless. Past the hull hangs RX Kratos, no longer a neat disk, but a smeared arc of devoured light, because we are closer to its curve than any ship should endure and remain coherent. One by one, locator beacons ping green. Dane ejects first. His thrusters kick, tiny blue sparks swallowed by dilation. A heartbeat later, Drake follows, spinning deliberately so visor lens keeps station in view, interpreter to the last, even whilst abandoning text. Dustin hesitates. Through comm, I whisper, 90 seconds of air. Believe the larger number. He breathes once and pushes off with a tether snap. My turn. I twist hand on hatch rail, but hesitation roots me. The ledgers glow, the tremble lights quiet, the weightless vestibule that was once a chapel of futures. I clip the trembling filament into hatch seam. Unauthorized ritual. Necessary. Then, push. Splayed against stars, station dwindling behind, I witness Threnady's final maneuver. Thrusters vent one last curl of fire, then gutter. The station pirouettes, majestic, broken, holy, and vanishes along a crooked vector my visicist cannot track. Not light speed, not classical translation, simply otherwhere. A shelf of space-time outside the ledgers my culture writes. Suit chronometer resets to the 1st of the 1st, year 1. Midnight. Time, beginning again. My ligature node accepts the anomaly, sets pulse to measured tempo. Squad channel comes alive. Dustin. I've got suit-to-suit telemetry, all vitals yellow. Drake, voice faint. The shard is inert. It's yours now, Hadrick, if we meet again. Dane clipped. Course plotted toward rescue ellipsoid. 23 million clicks. Move. I answer only with breath, open my mission recorder to broadcast wideband. Entropy is not the enemy. Panic is. We have walked the pattern. Ledger keeps the unchosen. We keep the choosing. If you hear this, remember us, not as ghosts, but as sequence set free. Transmission locks. I angle thrusters toward the tiny green chevron that marks Dane's suit. Behind us, no beacon blinks, no station looms, only the curved shadow of RX Kratos and the silent hymn of open dark. Structure, at last, belongs to us again.